The night sky above the ruined coastline was filled with quiet stars shining like cold fire. The wind carried the smell of salt and metal. Among the wreckage of a crashed ship, a human named Eli Turner moved carefully, his flashlight cutting through smoke and darkness. He wasn't supposed to be here. The crash had happened 2 nights ago, and the area was marked quarantine zone. But Eli couldn't ignore the signal he'd picked up. A weak, repeating distress call that whispered through static, "Help, please, can't move." When he found her, he almost dropped the light. She wasn't human. A small alien girl lay trapped under the remains of a metal beam. Her skin shimmered faintly under the stars, pale silver with a hint of blue. Her eyes were large and bright like twin moons. She looked fragile, her body shaking as she breathed. Eli dropped his tools and ran to her. "Hey, stay with me, I'm here to help." Her voice was soft and trembling. "Don't touch the light," she whispered, pointing weakly to the glowing crystal embedded in her chest. It pulsed slowly as if alive. Eli didn't understand, but he nodded. He used a crowbar to lift the beam and pulled her free. She screamed in pain, clutching her legs. When he checked, he saw why. Her lower body wasn't moving. "Your legs, they're hurt badly," he said. "I can't feel them," she whispered. "Please, don't leave me." Something in her voice stopped him from walking away. She wasn't a monster or a soldier. She was just scared. He carried her to his rover, wrapping her in his old coat. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lyra," she said faintly. "I'm from the stars." Eli smiled softly. "Well, Lyra from the stars, you're safe now." The following days were quiet but strange. Eli built a small shelter near the shore and cared for Lyra. Her wounds healed slowly, but she never regained the ability to walk. She would sit by the window staring at the night sky for hours. Sometimes, when the tide was low, Eli would go out and collect small shells for her. He'd show them one by one, and she would smile, a soft, shy smile that made him forget how lonely Earth had become after the wars. One night, while repairing her translator device, Eli pointed to the horizon. "Beyond those cliffs," he said, "there's an ocean. Endless water. It sings when the wind passes over it." Her silver eyes widened. "Ocean?" She repeated the word slowly as if tasting it. "Yeah," he said, smiling. "I'll take you there one day. You'll see it for yourself." Lyra turned her gaze toward the stars again. "On my world," she said quietly, "we have no oceans. Only sand and sky. I've always wanted to see where the world ends," Eli chuckled. "Then it's a promise. When you're strong enough, I'll carry you there." Days turned into weeks. Lyra grew more talkative. She told him stories about her home, of glass towers, floating gardens, and glowing beasts that swam through the air. Eli listened quietly, pretending to understand. But sometimes when she thought he wasn't looking, she would touch the crystal in her chest and close her eyes in pain. One night he asked, "What is that thing?" She hesitated. "It's a heart lock," she said softly. "A bond made to protect someone important. Someone like you?" He guessed. She looked away. "It doesn't matter anymore." One evening, when Eli went to gather fuel cells from the old wreck, he found strange footprints. Clawed, heavy, not human. His stomach tightened. Someone else was searching the crash site. That night, Lyra woke up screaming. The crystal on her chest was glowing violently, flooding the room with light. "They're coming," she cried. "They can feel the signal." Eli grabbed his rifle and looked outside. In the distance, dark shadows moved. Drones, scanning lights flickering like fireflies. "Who's coming, Lyra?" he asked. Her voice was shaking. "Hunters. From my world. They think I stole something." Eli swallowed hard. "What did you steal?" Her eyes filled with tears. "My freedom." For a long moment he didn't move. The sound of engines echoed far away. He looked down at her fragile form, at the way she clung to that glowing stone like a lifeline. Finally, he said, "Pack what you can. We're leaving before sunrise." That night before sleep, Lyra looked at him and whispered, "Why are you helping me? I'm not one of you." Eli smiled tiredly. "Maybe not. But I think everyone deserves to see the ocean at least once." Her lips trembled. She reached out and held his hand gently. "Eli, if I see the ocean, it will be because of you." He squeezed her hand. "Then it's a promise beneath these stars." Outside, the waves crashed against the rocks. Above them, a lonely satellite blinked in the sky, a silent witness to a strange friendship that had just begun. But far beyond, Among those same stars, unseen ships were already turning toward Earth, following the faint pulse of a stolen light. Morning came with a sky painted in pale gold. The broken coast shimmered under the first rays of light. Eli packed his few tools, filled a metal canister with water, and checked the hover sled twice before turning to Lyra. She sat silently watching him, her silver eyes calm but uncertain. Her legs were covered in a blanket, and the faint glow from her chest crystal flickered weakly in the daylight. "Ready?" Eli asked softly. Lyra nodded. "The ocean is far?" "Far enough," he said, tightening the strap on his backpack. "But I keep my promises." Eli gently lifted her onto the hover sled, careful not to touch the crystal embedded in her chest. He started the engine. It coughed, hissed, and finally rose a few inches from the ground. Dust swirled around their feet as they began to move. The journey had begun. They passed through empty towns and rusted cities, where old holograms flickered and faded in the wind. Once Earth had been alive, full of voices, colors, and laughter. Now it was only dust and silence. Lyra watched everything with wide eyes. "You humans, built so much," she whispered, "and then left it to die." Eli's face tightened. "We didn't want it to end, but war doesn't ask what we want." After a long pause, she said quietly, "We had wars too. My world fell because of them." That night they camped inside an old subway tunnel. The air smelled of oil and stone. Eli made a small fire using scraps of old polymer. Lyra sat close, staring into the flames like she was seeing something sacred. "What was it like?" Eli asked. "Your home?" Lyra smiled faintly. "There were twin suns. The sky was always orange. My people built cities that floated in the wind. But we were proud, too proud. We believed we were chosen by the stars. Then came the ones who wanted our light." "Who were they?" Eli asked. She looked away. "Hunters. Machines of flesh and code. They took everything. I escaped. But I left my sister behind." Her voice cracked on the last words. Eli didn't ask more. He just tossed another piece of scrap into the fire. The next morning, the sled hummed across long plains of red dust. The sun burned above them and the wind howled like ghosts. Sometimes Lyra sang softly in her alien tongue, a song of home and memory. Eli didn't understand the words, but the sadness in them was clear. Hours later, a loud crack echoed. The sled lurched, sputtered, and fell to the ground with a thud. Smoke rose from the back. Eli cursed under his breath. He knelt beside it, tools in hand, but the damage was serious. "We'll have to walk for now," he said. Lyra looked at him helplessly. "I can't. I'll carry you," he said simply. Before she could protest, he lifted her onto his back. She was lighter than she looked, her body almost weightless, like holding moonlight. She gasped softly, unused to such closeness. "You don't have to," she murmured. "Yes, I do," Eli said, breathing hard. "I promised." By the third day, Eli's arms trembled from exhaustion. They crossed through a ruined highway filled with broken vehicles. Lyra tried to help by pointing directions using her holographic compass. "You're a terrible navigator," Eli teased weakly. She smiled faintly. "You're a terrible liar." That small moment of laughter broke the silence between them. When night came, they rested inside an old service station. The neon signs flickered faintly, powered by the storm above. Lyra lay beside the window, looking at the stars. "They're watching us," she whispered. Eli frowned. "Who?" "The hunters. They have sensors that can trace the light from my crystal. It's growing weaker, but they can still find me." He turned to her. "Then we move faster. I'm not letting them take you." "You can't fight them, Eli." "Maybe not," he said, tightening his jaw. "But they'll have to go through me first." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. "You humans are strange," she said quietly. "You protect what you don't understand." Eli shrugged. "Maybe that's what makes us human." The next morning they saw something new. The horizon ahead was filled with tall, glowing pillars. Blue light danced like water, reflecting off metal ruins. Lyra gasped softly. "What is this place?" she asked. "Old energy field," Eli said. "Before the collapse, it powered half the continent. Now it's just ghosts and static." As they moved closer, the ground vibrated. Lyra suddenly grabbed his arm. "Wait, something's wrong." Eli froze. A faint humming sound filled the air, mechanical, sharp, getting louder. Out of the mist, dark shapes appeared, small drones hovering, scanning the air. They found me, Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. Eli's heartbeat thundered in his ears. He turned off the sled's core and pulled her behind a large metal plate. The drones swept over them, their red sensors scanning the ruins. One stopped directly above their hiding spot. Eli held his breath. The drone's light flickered, scanning for heat. Lyra covered his hand with hers. Her skin was cold, glowing slightly under his touch. Suddenly, the crystal in her chest dimmed, completely. The drone's light blinked twice. Then it moved away. When the last one disappeared, Eli exhaled, collapsing back in relief. Lyra was shaking. "I cut off my life energy," she whispered. "It was the only way to hide." Eli looked at her, realizing the pain in her eyes wasn't just fear. It was guilt. "You saved us," he said quietly. She shook her head. "No, I only delayed them. They'll come again." He stood and offered his hand. "Then let's not make it easy for them." Lyra hesitated, then took his hand. The warmth of his touch made her look at him differently, as if something had changed. As the sun sank behind the glowing ruins, they continued their long journey. The road ahead was uncertain, but in that moment, under a sky of fading gold, an unspoken bond grew between human and alien, one made not of duty, but of quiet trust, and somewhere far beyond the stars, the hunters received a faint signal, a pulse that whispered from a small blue planet. The crystal moves, and it is not alone. The ruins of the energy field stretched for miles, glowing faintly beneath a gray morning sky. Eli's boots crunched against the broken glass as he pushed the hover sled through what had once been a city of light. Buildings leaned like old skeletons, their windows cracked and black. Lyra sat quietly on the sled, wrapped in an old human blanket. The faint glow in her chest had returned, softer now, like the heartbeat of a sleeping star. Her silver eyes darted around nervously as if every shadow hid danger. "Eli," she whispered, "we should not be here." He looked over his shoulder. "You said we had to stay off the open road. These tunnels go west, toward the ocean." Lyra's voice trembled. "These ruins belong to the first human colony that traded with my kind. The hunters came here once before." Eli frowned. "To hunt what?" "Anything that still had light." They moved deeper into the underground passages. The walls were covered in glowing moss, pulsing gently with energy. Lyra's crystal reacted faintly to it, humming in sync. Eli noticed it. "That thing inside you? It's alive, isn't it?" Lyra hesitated before answering. "Yes, it is a fragment of my soul locked to protect my power. When I fled my world, it fused with me. Without it, I would die. But with it, they can find me. Then we'll keep it hidden," Eli said. She shook her head. "You don't understand. They don't track the crystal. They track me." Hours passed in silence. When they finally emerged above ground, the sun was already low, turning the ruins orange. Eli stopped beside a collapsed bridge, breathing hard. "We'll rest here," he said. He sat against a wall, cleaning the dust off his rifle while Lyra gazed at the horizon. "You still think the ocean is real?" she asked softly. Eli smiled faintly. "I've seen it once. When I was a kid. My father took me before the wars. I remember the sound, the waves, the wind. It felt alive." Lyra's eyes glimmered. "I want to hear it too." He looked at her, noticing the faint shimmer on her cheeks. For a moment, she didn't seem alien at all, just a girl far from home. Then the silence broke. A metallic screech echoed in the distance. Eli jumped up instantly. "Stay here." He scanned the ruins, his eyes narrowing. A group of shadows moved between the broken buildings, tall, inhuman shapes walking with perfect rhythm. "Hunters?" Lyra whispered. He nodded. "4 of them. Maybe more," her voice trembled. "They shouldn't have found us so fast." Eli pulled the hover sled behind a collapsed wall. "Can they track your signal even when you dim the crystal?" Lyra's hand shook. "No, unless—" She stopped, realizing something. "Unless one of them touched the same frequency I used to cut the light." Eli turned toward her, confused. "What does that mean?" "It means," she whispered, "they've learned how to feel me." The air filled with a low humming, like 1,000 wasps moving in unison. The hunter stepped into view. They were tall, wrapped in armor that shimmered like liquid glass. Their faces were blank, no eyes, no mouths, only smooth black surfaces that reflected the world like mirrors. One of them raised a strange device, scanning the area. A cold blue beam swept across the ruins. Eli grabbed Lyra's hand. Down, don't move, the beam passed inches away. The air felt electric. Lyra closed her eyes and whispered in her language, words like soft wind. The crystal on her chest flickered, sinking with the moss under their feet. For a moment, the hunter's sensors went blind. Their lights flickered erratically. What did you do? Eli whispered. Blurred the field, she said weakly. But it won't last long. Eli made a quick choice. There's an old metro tunnel under these ruins. We'll take it. They ran through the cracked corridors, Lyra holding the blanket close to her body. The echoes of the hunters followed, heavy steps, clicking metal growing faster. The tunnel opened into a wide underground platform. Signs written in faded English still hung from the ceiling. Eli found an old generator and yanked a switch. Lights flickered to life for the first time in decades. He turned toward Lyra. We can hide down there. Before she could respond, the wall behind them exploded. Dust and debris filled the air. Eli grabbed Lyra and dove behind a pillar. One of the hunters stepped through the smoke, its arm transforming into a long, gleaming blade. Lyra gasped. They sent an echelon class. They never use those unless what? Unless they believe the crystal's host is royal? Eli stared at her. Royal, you mean? Lyra's voice cracked. I'm not supposed to live. I was the last daughter of the Council of Light. They burned my city to erase our line. The hunter raised its blade. Target confirmed, it said in a cold synthetic voice. Eli fired his rifle. The bullet hit its chest, nothing. The creature didn't even flinch. It swung the blade down. Eli shoved Lyra aside and blocked the strike with a metal rod. Sparks flew. The blade sliced through half of it. Eli fell, bleeding from his arm. Lyra screamed. The crystal on her chest flared bright blue, flooding the tunnel with light. The hunter froze mid-step, its armor cracking as the energy hit it like lightning. It stumbled back, screeching, and collapsed in pieces. Eli looked up, eyes wide. What was that? Lyra's breathing was shallow. A pulse of truth. It only works once. He wiped the blood from his arm. Then let's move before more come. She nodded, weak but determined. As they disappeared deeper into the tunnels, the camera would pan back, showing the fallen hunter still twitching. Its cracked armor emitted a faint signal. In a distant galaxy, a voice answered the transmission. The lost heir is alive. Prepare the ascension fleet. The sun was gone behind a wall of black clouds. The wind howled like 1,000 voices crying across the endless plains. Eli tightened his jacket, leaning against the storm as he pulled the hover sled through the mud. On it sat Lyra, weak, pale, and shivering. Her silver hair clung to her face, her eyes half closed, and the crystal in her chest glowed faintly like a dying star. For 2 days, they had not stopped moving. The tunnels had collapsed behind them after the fight with the hunter. Every path they took now led into open land. No shelter, no cover, only the storm. Eli's muscles ached. His left arm still bled beneath the torn bandage, but he didn't care. Every time he thought about resting, he looked at Lyra. She was fading. The glow in her chest grew dimmer each hour. Stay awake, he shouted over the wind. Her voice was a whisper. You should... Leave me, he shook his head. I already told you I don't break promises. The rain began as tiny drops, but soon it was like glass needles falling from the sky. The plains turned to rivers of mud. Lightning flashed, painting the world in white. Eli spotted a broken transport ship half buried in the dirt. Shelter! He yelled and pushed toward it. They reached the wreck and crawled inside through a rusted hole. The interior was cold, dark and silent. Broken lights flickered. Inside, the smell of burnt metal and oil hung heavy in the air. Eli helped Lyra lie down on a seat. She was trembling, her lips blue. The crystal, it's burning inside me, she whispered. Eli crouched beside her. What happens if it dies? Her eyes met his, frightened, ancient. If it dies, I die too. He took her hand gently. Then we keep it alive. He looked around for anything useful and found a small power cell still charged. He connected it to a heating coil and made a faint glow of warmth. He tore his sleeve and wrapped her legs. Lyra's eyes softened. You humans. You care even when it hurts, Eli smiled tiredly. Someone has to. Hours passed. The storm raged outside, tearing across the metal walls like claws. Inside it was quiet except for the hum of the dying power cell. Lyra stirred weakly. Eli, can I ask something? Anything. Why did you stay? When you found me, you could have walked away. He looked into the flickering light. Because I've seen too much dying. Too much running. Maybe saving you makes up for not saving the others. Others, she whispered. My unit, he said quietly. We were sent to evacuate civilians during the last war. The ship exploded. I was the only one left. I promised myself I'd never let anyone die if I could stop it. Lyra's eyes glistened. You carry ghosts too, he nodded slowly. Yeah, but tonight I'm carrying you. Her lips curved into a faint smile. You sound like my father. He said light only lives when shared. She reached for his hand. Her fingers were cold, but the moment she touched him, the crystal flickered brighter. A soft warmth spread between them. Eli stared. It reacts to me. Lyra looked at their hands, amazed. Human energy, empathy. It connects with the lock. You're healing it. He blinked. Healing it? She nodded. Maybe. You're the reason it hasn't gone dark. Suddenly the ship shook violently. A flash of red light burst outside. Eli jumped to his feet and looked through a crack in the hull. 3 dark figures moved through the storm. Hunters. Their armor shimmered with electric light. They were scanning the wreck. Damn it, he whispered. They tracked us again. Lyra sat up weakly. They shouldn't have found me so fast unless... She paused, realizing. Unless the crystal linked to you when you touched it. They can trace your energy now, too. Eli cursed under his breath. So we're both beacons now. The ship's wall exploded inward as a plasma bolt hit it. Eli pulled Lyra behind a metal console just as more shots lit up the cabin. He fired back with his rifle, 3 quick bursts. 1 hunter fell, sparking, but the others advanced. Lyra's crystal flared again. Her voice grew louder, almost echoing. Cover your ears! Eli ducked. A wave of blue energy burst from her chest like the roar of thunder. The hunters staggered, their systems shorting out. The storm outside went silent for a moment, as if the world itself had stopped to breathe. Then Lyra collapsed. The light from her chest dimmed dangerously. Eli caught her. Lyra, stay with me! Her voice was weak, almost gone. The energy. It's draining. I can't stop it. He pressed his forehead to hers. Don't you dare die now. We're almost there. Through the hole in the wall, he saw the rain clearing. The storm had passed. In the distance, a faint glow reflected on the horizon. A silver shimmer. The ocean. He whispered. It's close. He lifted her in his arms again, stepping out into the calm after the storm. The air smelled of salt. The wind was soft now, carrying the faint cry of distant waves. Lyra's head rested against his shoulder. Her breath was shallow. You kept your promise. Not yet, Eli said. You're going to see it. With your own eyes. By the time he reached the cliffside, the sky had turned blue again. The sea spread out endlessly below, vast, endless, beautiful. Eli's legs shook. His body was bleeding, his vision blurry, but he kept walking until his boots touched the edge. He sank to his knees and set Lyra down gently. She opened her eyes and saw it, waves shimmering under sunlight. Her lips parted in wonder. It's alive. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Eli smiled weakly. Told you, I keep promises. She looked at him, her eyes glowing brighter than before. And I will keep mine. Her hand touched the crystal, and for a moment the light inside it turned pure white. The glow spread to her legs, her arms. Eli blinked, not believing his eyes. Lyra? Your legs. She stood, slowly, shakily. But she stood. The wind carried the sound of waves crashing below as Eli collapsed from exhaustion. Lyra knelt beside him, whispering, You brought me here. Now it's my turn to save you. As the sky opened above them, the ocean roared like applause. But behind the horizon, a distant fleet stirred in the void, drawn by the same light that now burned bright again on Earth. The storm was over. But the war for the light had just begun. The wind was calm now. The storm had passed, leaving behind a silver sky and the soft sound of waves touching the shore. The ocean stretched endlessly, glowing under the pale light of dawn. It was everything Lyra had dreamed of, vast, alive, endless. She stood at the cliff's edge, barefoot, the wind brushing through her silver hair. For the first time in years, her legs held her weight. The paralyzed girl who couldn't walk was standing tall. The light from her chest crystal flickered softly, not weak anymore, but steady, strong. Behind her, Eli lay motionless on the rocky ground, breathing faintly. His jacket was soaked, his skin pale, and blood stained his sleeve. He looked like a man who had given everything he had left just to keep one promise. Lyra turned slowly, her eyes full of emotion. "You foolish human," she whispered. "You carried me here even when your body broke." She knelt beside him, brushing the wet hair from his forehead. He stirred weakly, opening his eyes to the glowing horizon. "You're standing?" he whispered, a tired smile on his lips. Lyra nodded, tears glimmering. "You kept your promise, and the ocean is more beautiful than I imagined." Eli's chest rose and fell slowly. "Worth it." Every step her heart tightened. "You shouldn't have come this far for me." He laughed softly, barely a breath. "You'd have done the same." She looked at him, and for a moment the world went silent. The waves, the wind, even the distant thunder seemed to pause. Something powerful moved between them, something wordless. Lyra placed her hand on his chest. The crystal in her own body responded immediately, glowing brighter. "You gave me your strength," she whispered. "Now I give it back." Light spread from her fingers, flowing into Eli like a river of stars. His breathing grew deeper, the color returning to his face. But as he healed, Lyra grew weaker, her glow fading little by little. He opened his eyes again. "Stop. Don't speak," she said softly. "Humans heal with time. My kind heals with sacrifice." He tried to move to stop her, but his body refused. "You said you couldn't walk because of the crystal." She nodded faintly. "It wasn't the crystal. It was my heart. It locked itself after I saw my world burn. I thought I would never feel again. Until you," her voice trembled. "You taught me what kindness feels like. You made me remember what hope is." Eli stared at her, words lost in his throat. "Lyra," she smiled gently. "When you carried me through storms, when you held me close, the lock began to break. I didn't lie, Eli. I truly couldn't walk because I had forgotten how to live." The crystal in her chest pulsed one last time and then dimmed. The glow spread across her skin like silver dust. Eli sat up slowly, feeling warmth rush through him. The wounds on his arm were gone. The pain had vanished. But when he looked at her, she was already falling. "Lyra." He caught her before she hit the ground. Her eyes fluttered open weakly. "Don't cry, Eli. This is not the end." He held her tighter. "No, you're not dying. You hear me?" She smiled faintly. "You humans always think of life as light and death as darkness. But for us, they are the same sky, two sides of one star." Eli's voice broke. "You said we'd see the ocean together." She touched his face. "We are seeing it. Look." He turned his head. The waves crashed below them, reflecting their light in every drop. It was as if the entire sea had become alive with color. Gold, blue, and white, swirling like a heartbeat. Lyra whispered, "Do you hear it?" "The waves?" She nodded. "No. The ocean is singing. It's calling me home." Her body glowed brighter and brighter until it looked like she was made of light. The glow reached the sky, painting the clouds silver. The sea below responded, waves rising, forming patterns that spiraled toward the horizon. Eli watched, tears streaming down his face. "Don't leave me, Lyra." She smiled softly, tears shining in her eyes too. "I'm not leaving. I'll be where the waves touch the wind, where the stars meet the water." Her crystal detached from her chest, floating between them. It pulsed once, bright and alive, and then drifted into Eli's hands. The warmth of it filled him completely. "Keep it," she said faintly. "It will guide you when you're lost." Then, with one last breath, she whispered, "Thank you for carrying me to the edge of the world." Her body dissolved into silver light that rose into the sky and scattered among the stars. Eli fell to his knees, clutching the glowing crystal. The wind blew across the cliff, carrying the faint sound of her voice, soft and distant like a song fading into the horizon. He stayed there for hours, watching the waves crash below. The sky above him turned from blue to orange to night. When darkness fell, the ocean began to glow faintly again. A line of light traced across the water, stretching far into the distance. Eli looked at it and smiled sadly. "She kept her promise too," he whispered. He stood slowly, holding the crystal against his chest. It pulsed once, like a heartbeat answering his own. The camera of the story would pull back then, showing a single man standing on the edge of the world, holding a light that once belonged to the stars. The vast ocean below shimmered like liquid silver. And somewhere above, among countless stars, one burned brighter than the rest, blue, pure, and eternal, Lyra's star, and beneath it, the human who carried her there. The morning after Lyra vanished, the world felt heavier. The ocean waves moved slowly as if mourning her absence. Eli sat on the cliff, motionless, the glowing crystal still resting in his hands. It pulsed softly, once, twice, and like a quiet heartbeat. He hadn't slept. He hadn't even tried. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face, the way she smiled before dissolving into light. Her voice still echoed in his mind. "I'll be where the waves touch the wind." Eli stared at the horizon, whispering to the wind, "You kept your promise, Lyra, but you left me with 1,000 questions." The crystal flickered, responding faintly. The glow moved with his words like it could hear him. As the day passed, the weather changed. The wind grew cold and faint streaks of silver lightning danced far out over the sea. Eli's hand brushed the crystal again, and suddenly, a wave of warmth shot through him. His vision blurred. The world around him disappeared. He was standing on a platform made of light. The ocean below wasn't water anymore, it was glowing energy, endless and alive. Stars floated around him like fireflies. And there, standing a few feet away, was Lyra, not made of flesh, but of pure light. Her shape shimmered, her voice like the ocean breeze. "Eli," he froze, his heart pounding. "Lyra, is this real?" "In a way," she said softly. "You're touching the crystal's core. It connects our worlds now." He stepped closer, trying to reach her, but his hand passed through her form. "You said you were gone." "I am," she said with a sad smile. "But a part of me lives in the crystal, the same way a star leaves its light behind even after it dies." Eli looked down at the glowing sea beneath them. "Why me, Lyra? Why give this to a broken man?" "Because you're not broken," she said gently. "You're human, and that means you can still feel. You carried me when I couldn't walk. You gave when you had nothing. That's the kind of heart that can bear light." Her form flickered as if the energy around her was fading. "The crystal you hold isn't just a memory, Eli. It's a living code. I'm part of my people's legacy. The Council of Light built it to hold our history, our power, our truth." He frowned. "Truth?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Your world thinks it's alone in the dark. But the truth is, Earth was once part of our map. Long ago, before the wars, your ancestors and mine shared knowledge. Humans were not meant to be forgotten." Eli felt his breath catch. "You mean, we were connected?" "Yes," she said. "And now you are the bridge again." The vision flickered violently. Thunder echoed through the glowing sky. Lyra turned toward the horizon, her eyes darkening. "They found you." Eli's pulse quickened. "Who?" "The hunters. The crystal's signal has awakened. They know it bonded to a human." He clenched his fists. "Let them come." "I won't let them take it." Lyra stepped closer. "You can't fight them the way you are now. The crystal's power will destroy you if you use it wrong." "Then teach me," he said. "Tell me what to do." Her eyes softened. "I can only guide you through what remains. But the crystal will respond to your heart, not your mind. It listens to courage, not command." She reached out a shimmering hand, and though he couldn't feel her, a warmth spread through him. "Promise me one thing, Eli," she whispered. "Whatever happens, never let the light inside you become a weapon. Let it be a shield." He nodded slowly. "I promise." Lyra smiled faintly, that same quiet, kind smile she always gave him. "Then I'll walk with you again. In every step you take." The light around her began to fade. "Wait!" Eli shouted. "Lyra, don't go." Her final words echoed like music. "Find the city beneath the waves. The truth sleeps there." And then the vision shattered. Eli gasped back on the cliff. The sky was darker now, the waves crashing violently below. He looked at the crystal. It was glowing brighter than ever, pulsing with steady rhythm. He stood slowly. His body felt strange, lighter, stronger. When he looked at his hands, faint silver lines shimmered across his skin, matching the glow of the crystal. A deep hum filled the air. He turned toward the horizon and froze. From the clouds above the sea, dark shapes emerged. Sleek ships, their surfaces reflecting the stormlight. The hunters had come. Eli's heart pounded. He clutched the crystal tightly. It pulsed in answer, sending waves of energy through the ground. The ocean reacted. The water rippled, rising in circular patterns like it was alive. He whispered to himself, "So this is it, huh?" The sky flashed again, and a hunter ship descended, landing on the cliff a few hundred meters away. Its doors opened, and tall, armored figures stepped out, scanning the area. "Energy signature confirmed," one said in its cold, mechanical tone. "Host identified, human." Eli took a step forward. The wind whipped around him, the crystal glowing like a small star in his hand. "You want her light?" he said quietly. "You'll have to go through me." The lead hunter raised its arm. "You are unworthy of the bond." Eli smiled faintly. She thought otherwise. The crystal flared suddenly, a blinding burst of white light. It spread like a wave, throwing the hunters backward. The ground trembled. The cliff cracked. Eli dropped to one knee, the crystal burning in his palm. Voices echoed inside his head, thousands of them whispering, "Awaken. The light remembers you." The energy surged through him, and for a moment his eyes glowed the same silver blue as Lyra's. When the light faded, the hunters were gone, scattered into the storm. Eli stood slowly, breathing hard. The crystal floated beside him now, no longer needing his hand. He looked at the horizon where the sea met the clouds. "The city beneath the waves," he murmured. "That's where the truth sleeps." He tightened the strap of his pack, the wind blowing against his face. The ocean roared below, calling him forward. And for the first time, Eli wasn't walking for someone else. He was walking with her light inside him. The sea was restless that night. The waves moved like silver beasts, crashing against the rocks below the cliff where Eli stood. The glowing crystal floated before him, pulsing with life, whispering in a language older than stars. He had walked for miles along the coast, following the rhythm of its heartbeat. Every step brought him closer to what Lyra called the city beneath the waves. Her voice still lived inside his memory, soft, calm, and guiding. "The truth sleeps there," she had said. Now, standing at the edge of the world once more, Eli felt the ocean pulling him forward. The crystal brightened, hovering just above the water as if waiting. Eli took a deep breath. "All right, Lyra," he murmured. "Show me." He stepped off the cliff. The sea swallowed him whole. The water was cold, but the moment the crystal's light touched it, the ocean began to change. The deep turned bright. Glowing paths opened beneath him, guiding his fall. Instead of drowning, Eli floated through light, his body surrounded by tiny particles that shimmered like stars. He sank deeper and deeper, until the water around him cleared, revealing something extraordinary. A city, massive and silent. It rested beneath the waves, its towers made of glass and coral, glowing faintly with blue fire. Strange symbols shimmered across the walls. The place felt alive, like a sleeping giant that had been waiting for him. Eli's feet touched the ground gently. He could breathe somehow. The air around him was thick but soft. The crystal drifted forward, leading him toward a great structure at the city's center. Its gates were shaped like twin spirals of light, slowly turning as if responding to his presence. Inside, he found a chamber filled with floating lights, millions of them, each one humming like a heartbeat. Lyra's voice echoed faintly in the air. "This is the memory vault. Every soul of my people rests here." Eli turned slowly, looking at the glowing orbs. "They're alive." "They are echoes," she whispered. "Thoughts, dreams. What we once were. The hunters tried to erase us, but we hid ourselves in the sea. You, Eli, carried the last key." He looked down at the crystal. It pulsed once more, then drifted from his hand and merged with the glowing lights. The chamber brightened. Suddenly, the ocean outside shook. The walls trembled. A voice filled the chamber, deep, metallic, and cold. "Access granted. Human host detected." Eli's head snapped upward. A massive shadow loomed above the city, a hunter dreadnought. It had followed him beneath the sea, its weapons charged, glowing red. Eli clenched his fists. "You're not taking this from her." "Not again." The light around him swirled faster, the memory orb spinning like a storm. The crystal reappeared in his chest, fusing with his heartbeat. Energy flooded his body, a blend of human strength and alien light. He rose slowly, surrounded by a halo of silver-blue fire. His voice trembled, but his resolve did not. "If you came for the light, you'll face it." The dreadnought's cannons fired. The chamber exploded in waves of color. Eli lifted his hands, and a shield of light formed, the ocean itself rising to protect him. The blasts hit the barrier, sending shockwaves through the city, but he held his ground. Lyra's voice whispered, You're not fighting alone. Every soul here stands with you. He felt it then, thousands of lights merging with his energy. The sea around him roared, rising higher and higher. The dreadnought trembled as the pressure grew. Eli's eyes glowed like stars. This is Earth, he said softly, and she's under my protection. He thrust both hands forward. A massive beam of light erupted from his chest, shooting through the water and piercing the dreadnought. The ship split apart, torn in two by the force. The explosion lit up the entire ocean, brighter than day. The shockwave spread, but Eli stood still, surrounded by calm water that curved around him like a shield. When the light faded, the sea grew silent once again. He looked up. Through the waves, faint sunlight shone from the surface. "It's over," he whispered. The voice that answered him was soft, familiar. "It's never truly over. Eli, but you've given them peace," he turned. Lyra stood there, not as a ghost this time, but as light in human shape. Her smile was gentle, her hair glowing like liquid silver. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his throat tight. "I am part of the crystal," she replied. "Part of you. When you saved the vault, our souls connected again." Eli stepped closer, reaching out. "Lyra." She placed her hand against his chest, over the spot where the crystal now pulsed. "You carried me when I was lost. Now I'll carry you when the stars forget your name." Tears burned in his eyes. "Stay," he whispered. "I can't," she said softly. "But I can live through you. Through every act of kindness, through every choice to protect instead of destroy." The light around her began to fade again. "Remember, Eli, the true power of light isn't to burn, it's to guide." He nodded slowly, holding her gaze. "Then guide me." One last time, Lyra smiled, bright, warm, and endless. "Look up," he did. Above the ocean's surface, through miles of glowing water, he saw the sunlight breaking through the waves. It looked like a door opening to the sky. When he looked back, she was gone. Eli swam upward, following the light. The ocean felt lighter now, warmer, alive again. When he broke through the surface, the storm had cleared completely. The horizon burned with sunrise. He floated there for a long time, staring at the endless sky. The crystal's light pulsed in his chest like a second heartbeat. Finally, he whispered, "You were right, Lyra. The ocean does sing." He smiled, tired, peaceful, as a wave lifted him and carried him toward the shore. The final scene faded with the sound of gulls and soft music, the camera rising into the sky, showing the entire coastline glowing faintly blue beneath the water, and among the clouds a new star appeared, silver and bright. Shining next to Lyra's, a quiet voice echoed over the ocean's wind. "Light lives on, not in power but in the hearts that carry it."